This is the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at pm-podcast.com or send your emails to info@pm-podcast.com. Hello and welcome to episode number 152. I am Cornelius Fichtner. This is the Project Management Podcast. Nice to have you with us. Do you hold a PMI certificate like the PMP, PGMP, PMI-RM or PMI-SP? If you do, well, then you know all about PDUs, those professional development units. In a nutshell, PMI's continuing certification requirement system says that your certificate is only valid for 3 years and then you're going to have to apply for recertification. But that doesn't mean that you have to take your test again. Luckily, it only means that you have to earn and then claim a predefined number of PDUs, you pay a fee, and voila! Your certification is good for another 3 years. A little while back, PMI gave their online CCRS system a major facelift. In our interview, you will meet Brian Weiss. He is PMI's Vice President of Product Management, and Mark Emery. He is the business owner of the CCRS. Both have been involved in the project from the start. In our interview, we look at why PMI decided to upgrade the system, who has to use it, some of its features, and we also discover our guests' favorite ways to earn PDUs. So let's get going. Brian Weiss is the Vice President of Product Management. He serves on PMI's executive management team. In his role, he provides overall leadership, planning and oversight of PMI's worldwide products for organizations and project management practitioners, certifications, implementation of new updated standards, career framework, organizational project management maturity model products and services, seminars, world training courses, and PMI's Global Congress programs are critical offerings within his area of responsibility. Brian has spent over 15 years in product management, marketing, and consulting roles. He joined PMI after serving as Director of Global Information Products and Services for the Hay Group, a leading global human resources consulting firm. In that capacity, he was responsible for Hay Information Services' global corporate team, consisting of brand and product management, application and web development, strategic alliances, and corporate initiatives. A native of Melrose Park, Pennsylvania, he graduated magna cum laude from Tulane University Freeman School of Business with a Bachelor of Arts degree. He received his Executive Master of Business Administration degree from St. Joseph University in Philadelphia. He's also a member of the American Society of Association Executives. I'll introduce Mark Emery to you in our next episode. And now, enjoy the interview.
The Project Management Podcast's feature interview. Today with PMI's Brian Weiss and Mark Emery.
Brian, Mark, welcome to the program.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So about half a year ago, PMI released its new CCRS. Let me see if I get this straight. This is the Continuing Certification Requirement System, correct?
That's exactly it.
Okay. Why does PMI require most of its credential holders to earn PDUs? What's the thought behind that?
Well, it's really about making sure everyone who earns a credential continuously develops and has the best opportunity for success in their careers. If you track it back to PMI's strategic plan, we have a strategic goal of superior practice of project management. So think about the environment that people are working in. It's not stagnant. It changes. It changes based upon technological changes, things that are happening in the economy, government regulation. So in essence, we want to make sure that those people who earn the credential stay current with the environment that they're working within. It also helps keep the credential valuable. You know, if you have a credential where someone earns it at one point of time and doesn't continuously develop, it might not lend itself to credibility in the eyes of employers, because employers want their employees to continuously develop and stay current with the types of practices that they need to deliver value on the job. And finally, about keeping the program current and standardizing it, it keeps it fair and transparent for all that participate in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always like to compare it to an airline pilot, because if we're talking about airline pilots, and everyone understands that these people have to go back and do flight simulations and train themselves on the new planes and all that, and make sure that they stay on top of technology and that they know what they're flying. And then when it comes to project managers, like, yeah, well, I learned my project management skills 25 years ago. Nothing's changed, right? Yeah, right. So I completely agree with this, what PMI is doing.
Yeah, the interesting thing there is if you're a pilot, not to demean what they have to go through, they have to go and learn some very sophisticated equipment to stay current.
Yes.
But it's one piece of equipment or one type of airline. The people who we advocate for, they need to apply project management principles and processes in a multitude of environments. They need to do it across industries, across geographies. Project type indicates the different things they might do just as much as industry does. So that's why we have the PDU program. And as you learn more about it, you'll see there's a broad spectrum of ways that people can engage with this program to stay current in the way they need to stay current.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's come back to the CCRS. Which certificate holders have to use the CCRS? We
have 5 credentials at PMI, and 4 of them require the use of the CCRS system. That's the project management professional, known as the PMP, the program management professional, the PGMP, the PMI scheduling professional, and the PMI risk management professional. The only one I left off the list, the CAPM, is one where it's a knowledge-based test of the PMBOK guide. So people aren't required to maintain PDUs and renew it each year. They retest after 5 years.
Okay. And where can these certificate holders learn about, how many PDUs they need, what type of PDUs they need, and what activities actually qualify to earn them PDUs?
Well, you can learn about the PDUs and submitting PDUs for our website. There's a career development section within our website. We can actually go to a drop-down, specifically find information about the PDUs. You can also go to our handbook, too, which is what credentials use for learning about the PDUs. Additionally, you can always contact our customer care service around the world. They're very experienced and helpful in terms of educating individuals in terms of what PDUs they can earn. So there's multiple different avenues where you can actually reach us to learn about PDUs and how to actually submit PDUs.
Okay. So about half a year ago, PMI launched the new CCRS. Was there something wrong with the old one?
No, there was nothing wrong with the old one. This was about scalability of service. We've reached a point where we've had significant growth over the last few years where we want to actually improve our level of service that we've had. We wanted to bring the system in-house so we could do a better job of actually supporting our customers. For example, our turnaround time for processing went from about 3 weeks down to about 1 day. So we were looking from a customer service perspective and also from a scalability perspective. Myself being a director of operations, I experience customer inquiries every day. And this was a way to sort of alleviate the pressure that we were feeling also in my group, but also to the intuitive of the system that we now have in place has been overall really a lot of positive reaction to the system.
I mean, Cornelius, if you think about it, back in 1999 when we launched the first system, we had about 18,000 credential holders, and we had about 107 registered education providers that helped log PDUs in the system that people could obtain. If you take a look at what we are today, we now have about 385,000 credential holders and over 1,200 registered education providers. So if you think about the scalability issue that Mark was just referring to, and you track just those numbers, I mean, one of our main objectives is world-class service of our constituents. And we needed to make sure that the system was updated in concert with the expectations of our various constituents and how we service them.
Mm-hmm. Well, in that case, just for the geek in me here, what platform and language is the new system built on?
The new platform is built on a Windows.NET architecture using Windows SQL. Some of the, we believe, most up-to-date technological architecture that's around.
Okay.
So what are some of the major differences between the old and the new CCRS? You've already mentioned the scalability there. You've gone from 18,000 to 385,000 people who can use it. So it's got to be a massively more robust system, definitely. But when it comes to feature set, what are some of the new features that you're offering?
Well, answering this question, I want to take a look at today, and I also want to take a look at that scalability issue, because the scalability issue is not just about number of users, it's about potential future enhancements as well. So the current system does everything the old system was able to do. It's able to handle the volumes that we have today, and allows new system improvements for the credential holder. They can select activities easier. They can choose from a whole series of PDU reports that are available to them. They can view their transcripts online. It's just a much easier system to use in credentials, and that enables them to maintain credentials. We also have links to allow our registered education providers more easily update their information, which provides more availability of courses that are out there, and links to data feeds and so forth. On the future standpoint, we've now built a system that enables us to take one step closer to our future vision, which is really linking lifelong learning, assessment taking, to opportunities to fill the gaps in your assessments, to see the courses that are out there. Our old system didn't let us do that. It was fragmented. So if somebody wanted to go understand where they stood in their project management career, they would do it in one place. They would identify gaps in that career, and to try to figure out learning opportunities to fill those gaps, they'd have to go to another system. And then once they wanted to execute against those learning opportunities, they'd have to go to a third system. So we've now integrated all in one place, and we've taken one step so we can create this lifelong learning platform, from assessment to identification of filling the gaps to actually executing against filling those gaps. And that's really where the true power of this comes. So all of our credential holders today will see a significant increase in us servicing them, in the retention of their credential. But what they aren't going to see immediately, but they will see down the line, is this lifelong learning platform which we created. And that's kind of the back-end infrastructure and architecture stuff that we did that's not visible to the end user right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can echo your statement about it being a much nicer user interface and easier to use. Once you've input, a couple of PDUs, and once you've done it once or twice, you realize, oh, this is much easier than what it was previously. So why don't you walk me through the process here, and let's use me as an example, for instance. So I took my PMP exam in January of 2004, and last week I happened to attend a seminar. I was in Atlanta, Georgia. And I spoke at a professional development day there. And let me see, as a speaker, I think I get 5 PDUs, if I'm not totally mistaken, if I speak at a seminar like that. So I've earned 5 PDUs. Now, what do I have to do? What do I have to do in order to register these PDUs in the system?
Well, for that specific example, you'd go into the system and log it. You would, if you were, and there's two or three different ways you can earn. Yours is speaking, but let's say you were an attendee of that event. Mm-hmm. Versus the speaker, the attendees would be able to search for that event in the system, and they would be able to identify that they were an attendee of that event and get the appropriate PDUs. Because of the changes we've made to the system, that component, the Atlanta chapter, would be able to go into the same exact system and log as a PDU learning opportunity for all of their participants to go enter. So in the past, that person who went to the Atlanta chapter would have to get a code from the Atlanta chapter, would have to go in there, plug it in, and identify them as a person that attended there. Here now they can go in and find that event already listed for them. In the future, we could potentially even have the registration list, and that's where we're migrating towards, entered for on their behalf. So a participant doesn't even have to go in and log the PDU. The PDU is tracked automatically. And we're already starting to test that at some of our PMI global congresses, where we scan people's badges and understand their attendance and put the things in the system for them. So I strayed a little bit from your example because a lot of the people who are out there who are listening to this podcast are probably going to have a different type of experience like the one I just went through, because they'll be attending events. You would go in there and then you would select the appropriate category and write that you spoke in an event, and it would populate the PDUs for you. So that's how you'd interact.
Right. And I think there's even an easier example. If somebody attends a dinner meeting at a local chapter, I think it's even much easier for those, right?
Yes.
You don't even have to look.
Right.
You don't even have to look for the event. You can just say, "I attended a dinner meeting, a 1 PDU dinner meeting," and that's it, right?
Well, the event will be in there for you, so you can query on the Atlanta chapter or the code, and up will come the event that's stored in for you, and you just click, I was there. PDUs are registered. And again, where we're migrating is you wouldn't even have to enter the system to do that. You'd go in at the end of the year, you click on your transcript, and what you would see is those things already logged for you because the chapter would have sent us a feed in. And it's about real-time service of those folks that are attending these events. The last thing we want to do, we want you focused on actually earning the PDUs, not logging the PDUs. So that's why we're trying to streamline the system.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea, yeah. Let's take a look at another extreme example, someone who doesn't have online access or who has, very iffy internet connections. They may be living in Africa, for instance. I have listeners in Africa, so what do they do? How can they log their PDUs if online is too difficult for them?
Well, there's multiple entry points for the system. We also have an operations here, which will take email, we'll take fax, and we'll also take calls, too. I mean, any way that the customer can get us information, we're more than willing to accept and help them through the process. So the Internet's not the only way to do it. And we do understand that when we built the system that there had to be other alternatives besides just going through the Internet.
Okay. Let's take a look at a few other of the current features that we have here. You've mentioned you can do some reporting. You've talked about features that will be coming in the future. Are there any other features that stand out for you personally that you'd say, this is really a cool feature that we built into the system?
But I think the cool feature, actually, one of the cool features we get positive feedback about, and I know it seems trivial when you're talking about it, but we actually have a bar chart in there of that PDU progression, and during your cycle, you probably get more positive feedback about that graphical representation than anything else about the system. That's something that actually did not exist before.
So it's a simple bar chart that just shows you're supposed to have 60, and then it goes higher and higher and higher and closer to the 60 that you need. Is that it?
You're exactly right.
Okay. Yeah, I have to admit, I like that as well, because in my case, it's beyond 60 already.
And I think one of the beauties of having a system that we've built is that we have staff on site who continually do releases, enhancements to the system. So we do survey the people who do actually transactional CCRs through our system, and we do review customer inquiries on a regular basis to see what the customers are actually asking us for to incorporate as part of the releases. So we always have the customer foremost in our thoughts when we're going through the releases in our system.
All right. Final question that I have for you. Let's take a step outside of the CCRS. Let's go to earning your PDUs. And there are dozens and dozens of ways that people can actually earn their PDUs. So my favorite one here is obviously people who are listening to this podcast, to the Project Management Podcast on a regular basis, they can log 15 PDUs every 3 years in the self-directed learning area. And I was wondering, Brian, Mark, what are your personal favorites when it comes to earning PDUs?
Well, I mean, obviously your podcast is on the top of the list.
Thank you. That's why I said it, so you'd have to look for something else.
I thought that was the only way someone can earn PDUs.
Thank you.
I mean, for me, it's really about the program, not about any specific PDU opportunity, and that's why we benchmarked the program against outside measures and other credentials to make sure that it's both current and easily accessible and representative of the profession. Meaning, if anyone who's tried to maintain their credential, they'll see there's a lot of different ways that they can earn PDUs. They can do it through professional development, of going to formal courses, e-courses, podcasts, self-directed learning, lecturing, doing their jobs, participating in teams. We really can't predict for each individual what their personal preference is in earning a PDU, and that's why we need to have so many different categories. Some people like to have experiences with others and interacting and networking. For those people, they should be going to courses or interacting and so forth. Some people really want to do self-directed learning and individual learning. Some people learn by witnessing. Some people learn by doing. So that's why it's critical that the program has so many different dimensions to it to allow it to cater to each of their individual learning types and all keeping them current within the profession of project management. So I don't necessarily have a favorite one. If I had something that I would put a personal view on, I always find that those people that interact physically in person or virtually through one of our component groups, whether there are communities of practice or whether there are geographic chapters, it offers them an opportunity of engagement with their peers and with local or virtual network that goes above and beyond anything that they could do just on their own. And so it's about that interaction with others, again, whether it's virtually or in person. So if I put in a personal view, I think interaction or PDU generation through our chapters or virtual components is a fantastic way to not only network with your peers, but to stay current and be better connected to the PMI family.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, do you have a particular favorite?
No, I can't compete with that. I don't think I have a particular favorite. And putting on my customer service hat, I think my favorite is what the customer's favorites are, which would be Category 3 PDUs, training events, and things of that nature, is what we see the most of. So I'll sort of step back and keep the unbiased point of view for that. But from a customer's perspective, their favorite would be a Category 3 type of training event.
Right. I would have expected that at least one of you mentions the recent release of PMI of their internal training that they're offering. I'm not quite sure anymore what it was, but doesn't it have something to do with the PM Network Journal? You read articles and then you go and answer online questions, something like that?
Well, you're referring to our publication quizzes program, which
yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's absolutely a fantastic way for somebody to get those extra PDUs that they might not have and also learn current project management practice and trends at the same time. It typically is something that we find at the end of a year, someone might be calling Mark's team and saying, hey, listen, I've got 58 or 59. What's a really good way for me to obtain my extra PDUs? And that's why we created the program. We created the program to give people an opportunity to kind of fill the end of their spectrum when time is running short, or in the middle of the year if they're seeing a gap between some other PDU development opportunity. It's a very reasonable and easily accessible way to get access to professional development information and get PDUs at the same time. So our publication quizzes program is fantastic, and it was launched for those reasons I just mentioned.
Perfect. Brian, Mark, thank you very much for coming on the program. I appreciate your time today.
You're very welcome.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
And that was our interview with Brian Weiss and Mark Emery about PMI's CCRS. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening. As always, you can find us on the web at pm-podcast.com, and yes, that dash in there is very important. If you are a PMP or PGMP and you are looking for a simple and effective way to earn your PDUs, then try our sister podcast, the PDU Podcast. Get a new webinar and at least one new PDU every month on autopilot. Stop by at pducast.com. That's pducast.com. Please send your emails to info@pm-podcast.com, and when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. And finally, we have this. The easiest way to avoid any change requests on your project is to get it started and then to finish the project as quickly as you possibly can. Until next time.